Hello everyone, welcome to How to Calculate with Mr. Kumar. In this video, we'll learn how to add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators or different denominators. Now, in some cases, you have to add two or more fractions. However, each fraction may have a different denominator, right? The denominator we say is unlike, meaning the denominators are different. In this example, you have 4 over 6 plus 5 over 8 plus 6 over 12. The denominators are different, and when this happens you cannot add denominators unless the denominators are the same, or you cannot add the fractions where the denominators are different. Okay, now we need to convert the denominator in these instances, right? You need to find a common denominator, which means you need to change the three denominators into one same number. Now in this example, as you can see, there are three fractions, but you can have you might be wanting to add two fractions or four fractions or five fractions. It doesn't matter, the rule is the same. You need to have the same denominator because you cannot add fractions with different denominators. Now in order to find a common denominator, you need to find a common number by checking if the denominators in this example 6, 8 and 12 can be multiplied by a number to get that common denominator. Now there is a number that 6, 8 and 12 can go into, meaning these three numbers can be multiplied by other numbers to get to a whole number, which is 24, right? 6, 8 and 12 are all factors of the number 24. Now if you do not know why they are factors of 24, it basically means that they can be multiplied by a number to get to the whole number of 24, right? So 6 times 4 gives you 24, 8 times 3 gives you 24, and 12 times 2 gives you 24. So 6, 8 and 12, they are all factors of 24, and the numbers 4, 3 and 2, they are factors of 24 as well. Now since you are multiplying the denominators to get to 24 as the common denominator, you need to multiply the numerator as well with the same number. So we are multiplying 6 times 4 to get to 24, 8 times 3 to get to 24, and 12 times 2 to get to 24. So we'll multiply the respective numerators as well. So we'll multiply 4 times 4, 5 times 3 and 6 times 2. Okay, so you multiply the numerators with the same number as you are multiplying the denominators respectively. So, and this is all so we can get the same denominator, right? So if you multiply 6 times 4, 8 times 3, 12 times 2, the denominator then becomes the same, which will be 24 throughout, right? So remember, always you cannot add fractions or you cannot subtract fractions where the denominators are different, and that's why we are multiplying these denominators to get to a common denominator. I hope that's clear, and in the next slide we'll look at what happens to the fractions. Now 4 times 4 gives you 16, 6 times 4 gives you 24, plus you have 5 times 3 which gives you 15, and 8 times 3 24, plus you have 6 times 2 which gives you 12, and 12 times 2 gives you 24. Now this is when we can add these three fractions. Now these three fractions that were initially 4/6 and 5/8 and 6/12, they have converted into 16 over 24, 15 over 24 and 12 over 24. Now you can go ahead and add these fractions, all the three fractions. Why? Because the denominators, as you can see, are all the same, right? We have converted them to the number 24. Initially there were 6, 8 and 12. Now they're all 24. They're same, they're like, they're called like denominators. Now all you need to do is just add the numerators together to get to the answer. So if you add the numerators, you get 43 over 24. Remember, you cannot add the denominators. The denominator remains the same, which is 24, but you add the numerators. So 16 plus 15 plus 12 gives you 43. Now 43 over 24 looks a bit unusual. Why? Because the numerator is more than the denominator, right? Numerator is 43 whereas the denominator is 24, but that's okay, it doesn't matter, your answer is still correct. Now what this means is that this fraction has actually become a mixed fraction, right? You can convert it into a mixed fraction. At the moment it's called an improper fraction, right? 43 over 24. Now if you need to change it to a mixed fraction, the answer you get is 1 and 19 over 24. Now let's look at another example. 1/5 plus 7/10. Again, you cannot add the fractions as they are because the denominator is different. So the common denominator is 10, obviously, as 5 can go into 10 two times, since 5 times 2 is 10. So you don't need to change 10 as the denominator, right? We use 10, so 7/10 remains as 7/10, but we'll need to change 1 over 5. So you are only multiplying 5, which is the denominator in the first fraction, with 2. So you need to multiply number 1, the numerator, by 2 as well. Now the addition now becomes, so 1 times 2 and 5 times 2 plus 7/10, which gives you 2 over 10, because 1 times 2 is 2 and 5 times 2 is 10, plus 7/10. All you need to do is add the numerators, so we add 2 plus 7, which gives you 9, and the denominator remains the same, which is 10. So your answer is 9 over 10, or 9/10. Right, so it's simple as that. Make sure the denominator is always the same, otherwise your answer will be wrong. You cannot add or subtract fractions with different denominators, and the same rule applies when you are subtracting, right? You just subtract the numerators, the denominator remains the same, and it has to be a like denominator. So to conclude, in order to add or subtract fractions with different denominators, you need to first find a common denominator. You can't add or subtract fractions with different denominators. Number 2, multiply the original denominators with a number to give you the common denominator, as we did. And number 3, multiply the original numerators with the same number that you multiplied the denominator with respectively. And lastly, the above rules apply for both adding and subtracting fractions with different or unlike denominators. Okay, so those are the 4 basic rules you need to remember when you are trying to add or subtract fractions, and it is as easy as that. And if you want to learn more about improper fractions or mixed fractions, there are other videos which I have made that'll give you more information on that. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.